You're listening to Let's Stay Together Anime Break, the subseries of Let's Stay Together where we talk about the 2019 anime Fruits Basket. I'm Ellen.
And I'm Kayla.
Last time I listened to... I tried to slow down a little bit when I said the intro this time because last time I was editing it and it was like, you could barely hear the words that I was saying. It's like, oh, okay. Sorry, I talk really fast.
You're just excited to get to the story.
I'm so excited. I just want to talk about Furuba. Actually, we already talked about Fruits Basket a lot today because we guest recorded on an episode of a podcast called Manga Mavericks. Which if you look at our Tumblr, actually I can post on our Tumblr. I could post it on our Tumblr as well, but what I meant to say was on our Twitter. If you follow our Twitter, the Manga Mavericks tweeted that we were doing we did a collab podcast together about Fruits Basket. So if you want to hear us talk about Fruits Basket more than you already have, you can go and check that out when it comes out. I don't know when it's going to come out, probably in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll post on our things, our social things, so you'll know if you want to hear us talk about Furuba even more.
You haven't gotten enough Fruits Basket.
Guess what? It's us and another person. One of the other hosts. So I really enjoyed it. It was a great discussion, I think.
Yeah,
so,
it was good.
Yeah. And I was so excited to get to, again, talk about Furuba again. So on that note, how about we talk about Furuba? So today we're discussing season 2, episode 22, which is called "That's Not What I Want."
Yeah, we speculated on where that was from and had the wrong answer, but I was gonna it's what Yuki says in the beginning scene rather than what Kyo says later on. I actually was gonna suggest this as another possibility, but I really thought it sounded like Kyo in the
it's hard to tell when
the preview. So
screaming.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll just say the one I think it is, but.
I think Yuki and Kyo's voice actors, and they're not super similar, but they're not as dissimilar as they've been in the past, I guess, and as they are in the dub.
Yeah.
If that makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think, especially when they're, angry.
Yes. Also, in that particular scene, Yuki's speaking in a really low, Yuki's voice actor speaks in a very low volume, a low pitch, and I think Kyo's voice actor's voice is a little bit low pitched, too.
Yeah.
So it could be misconstrued for sure. Mm-hmm. Plus, it's yet another vague subtitle,
Yeah.
or a vague translation, vague choice of title. So
still contained the scene that we were talking about. So,
so we were right? Question mark.
Yeah, we were right through the wrong method. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's like when you get the right answer, even though you use the wrong formula in a math problem, and your teacher's like, I guess.
Your teacher's like question mark, but I guess you get 50%.
Not sure how you work that out, but good job.
That was every math class I ever took. I don't know what you're talking about. So this episode covered chapters 86 and 87 of the manga, and we cover this in our podcast. Episode 44, which included all of 84 to 86, which was the content from last episode and the first half of this episode. And in our episode number 45, which was called Not at All Like a Prince, as an allusion to the second half, the second half of the episode / that chapter, which was 87 of the manga. Yeah. The episode opens with Yuki's memories of when our story began. At first, Tohru was just a weird classmate who lived in a tent to him, which I always forget. We talked about that earlier today, and I was like, right, she lived in a tent. Yuki invited her in because she was in need, and he wanted to rebel against the Somas. But then things changed. Yuki remembers when he warned her about the family, and that her memories might be suppressed. She said to him so sincerely, "If my memories get erased, please make friends with me again, okay?" And we cut to the theme song. In the present, Kakeru struggles a bit with Yuki's confession. So she's like, a mother? I don't get it. You want my mom? Yuki chuckles and explains that he'd never known a parent's love. He yearned for it. He was happy that Tohru stayed, listened to him without disgust or complaining, and accepted him. She didn't reject the fact that there are people as weak as me, he narrates, remembering Tohru comforting Kisa. The kindness that continued to shower on him made him feel at peace. He remembers Tohru covering the kids with a blanket after they fell asleep at the beach house and imagines Tohru doing the same to his younger self. To sleep knowing that I'm loved unconditionally, he narrates, like a child, abandoning myself and entrusting my whole body and mind. A place to be cared for. Rin, that's how you felt, right? You yearned for a mother's love. Yuki tells Kakeru that he yearned for a parent's love from Tohru. Even though she's a girl our age, Kakeru asks and Yuki confirms. He remembers the night that Kyo transformed. She looked like a woman when she chased after Kyo, he thinks. He doesn't know why he thinks that way. Rather than being someone I was romantically attracted to, he says to Kakeru, she felt more like a mother to me. There was no motive behind it. He wanted a comfortable place to be cared for. Yuki was confused and embarrassed when he realized it. I didn't want to acknowledge it, so I pretended I hadn't, he said to Kakeru. I shut it away. I tried to convince myself that it wasn't true, and tried to interact with her like a man does with a woman, but it felt wrong. Kakeru stands and starts to play with a soccer ball that rolled away from the team practicing nearby. He hits it with his knee and Yuki catches it. People look for a partner similar to their mom all the time, he says. Aren't you just twisting up your logic that way because you've given up on her to that other guy, Kyo? Because you don't think you can beat him or something? Yuki says that that's not it. It's true that part of me aspired to be like him, he says, but he sees her properly as a woman. They love each other, he thinks. You can see it in the way they look at each other. Not being able to beat him, Yuki says, standing up. Whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, I don't care about that. He kicks the soccer ball hard and high in the air and Kakeru catches it. There's nothing wrong with that, but I don't want that. This isn't what I want. I'd feel so lonely. This time, I want to discover it on my own, he says. He thinks of Tohru and thinks, I want to walk forth again, encouraged by the warmth and kindness you gave me. I don't want to be defeated by darkness, and remembering helping her in the past, he thinks, this time I won't let that go to waste. Yuki tells Kakeru that he's not giving up. He doesn't know when to. I want to discover my own special purpose in life, he thinks. I've never seen someone so desperate to live, Kakeru says. He leans down and looks at Yuki seriously, then picks up the soccer ball and chucks it full force at Yuki's face, shouting, Don't cry, Yoon-hyun! Once the ball stops spinning against his face, Yuki throws it back at Kakeru, hitting him in the gut and saying, You're gonna give me a nosebleed! They kick the ball back and forth at each other, and Kakeru's like, What the heck, I'm trying to cheer you up! Give me your phone, I'll snap a pic of your nose gushing blood! But fortunately, Kimi shows up and punches Kakeru in the gut to stop him from doing any more damage to Yuki's beautiful face. Yuki thanks her and asks if she came to check on him. She says that she did. From the ground, Kakeru is like, is anyone worried about me lying on the ground here? And they ignore him. Kimi asks if he's feeling better, and Yuki says that he is. Maybe it's because I shared something that I've never told anyone before, he thinks. Maybe it's because he's from a different world. Maybe it's because he's very kind. Kimi clearly has the feeling they were gabbing and wants to know what juicy secrets they're keeping from her. Painful stuff? Kakeru says, and Kimi's like, no way, indecent talk? And Yuki is like, why is that the first thing you think of? Because we love that stuff, Kakeru says with a smile. As they walk back to the counseling room, Kakeru asks why he didn't tell Tohru any of that stuff. Yuki says that he doesn't want to burden her with it. They'll be living together for a bit longer, and she prioritizes herself over others, so she might worry about it.
Instead of the other way around. Said she prioritizes herself over others.
She does! Tohru is very selfish. She prioritizes others over herself, so she might worry about it too much, she says. Wait, so it's okay to burden me? Kakeru asks. Was I a burden to you? Yuki asks, and Kakeru contemplates for a second, then drops to the ground. What a burden! So burdening, he whines. It'll haunt my dreams. I'll lose my appetite. Drama queen, Yuki says. He thinks that he'll be able to tell Tohru someday. At home in the evening, Tohru kneels on the kitchen floor, clutching the script for the class play tight. I read through it, but I have an overwhelming number of lines. I'm not sure I can remember them properly, she says, but fortunately Shigure is there to console her in her time of need. He asks what the play is about and looks through her script. No way! Kyo-kun is the prince? Now I have to see it and record it, he says. Kyo conveniently enters in the kitchen in time to complain that Shigure doesn't need to know about this crap, while Shigure continues to giggle about it. He grabs the script from Shigure and takes off. Tohru chases him into the hallway and protests because she needs to memorize her lines, and he's like, don't look at it in this house, and says she better not tell Shisho about it. Tohru looks away. Okay, she says. Look me in the eyes and say it, Kyo says, and with a ferocious gleam in her eyes, she lunges to take the script from him. He pulls it away above her head. She lunges again several times, and he keeps it away from her every time. With a determined expression and fists raised, she says, I won't lose! Let me tell you! I'm playing the bullying evil stepsister! You're the one being bullied here, Kyo says, laying the script on her head. Childish, Yuki says, catching the two off guard at the door. Can I at least come in? Kyo is, of course, super embarrassed of being caught in the flirty act, and he blushes and stammers, How long have you been there? I wonder, Yuki says. Tohru welcomes him home. Shiori comes to tell her that the pot is boiling, so she runs off to tend to it, and Kyo starts to go upstairs. Kyo, Yuki says. Kyo looks over his shoulder at Yuki. That hat? Honda-san has it now, he says. So I don't need to return it, do I? Kyo is completely taken aback and starts to get angry. Tohru comes to tell them that dinner is ready, and Yuki says he'll come eat now, but Kyo curtly says that he'll eat later, and goes back upstairs. Guess it was something he didn't want brought up, Yuki says. But I don't know what'll happen if he doesn't get his act together soon. Toru's a bit confused, but Yuki takes her hand and they go to the living room together. You're precious, he thinks. I look up to you. I cherish you because you provided what I so desperately longed for. More than anyone else, I want you to be happy. It's okay for you to find your special purpose in life, too. A place where you can truly be yourself. They sit down to eat, and Kyo meanwhile stands in his dark room, looking at his outstretched hands. Yuki's narration continues, where you can act freely, where you can sulk or get upset. You'll find it someday, and when you do, I should be able to tell you, along with an abundance of gratitude. Purely and sincerely. He imagines holding her hand or shaking it in the future. Later, Ayame speaks to Yuki on the phone. He's heard of the play that they're doing for school, of course. Leave the costumes to yours truly, Ayame says. I shall pull out all the stops to make my beloved brother shine most brightly on the grand stage. Now tell me, how many costume changes will you have? Yuki scowls while Kakeru now fixed the closet door in the background. You know it's not a wedding, he says to his brother. Preparations continue for the Culture Festival, and Class 2D is no exception. The kids rehearse their play. Cinderella, get my dress done quickly. You're such a sloth, Minami, the evil stepmother, says. You, say something to her, too. Okay, Tohru, the quote-unquote evil stepmother, says. If you don't finish quickly, there'll be no dinner for you. While the kids are rehearsing, we see that Tohru kneels on the floor crying from trying to be mean, and Minami gives her some acting notes. Don't cry! Hana consoles her. I'm so happy that you would cry for me. Why are you embracing? You're supposed to be evil, Minami shouts. The other classmates watch the rehearsal, and Yuki checks in. You're so passionate, he says to Minami, about her evil performance that she runs away in shame. This is like because they're worried about Yuki's perception of them. I don't know, whatever, it's funny. He asks how Toru's holding up, but of course it's not going well. The girl who seems to be directing the play says that she thinks there's been a miscasting. Tohru apologizes for causing trouble. The kids console her. She's trying her best to be mean. Tohru thinks that she has to work harder to make this play great and to show her gratitude to Ayame and Mine. And we flash back to some time earlier with an actual like flashback animation, which was hilarious, where it was like the screen was all wiggly. You know what I'm talking about. Greetings, my lost lambs, Ayame shouts, entering the classroom. I have arrived. Time is money. Get lined up before me at once and reveal everything to me, mainly your measurements. You really came, Nissan? Yuki says, and the class in unison is like, Nissan? Like his older brother. Oh, honey, but of course. I'm a man who never leaves his promises unkept. Outsiders aren't allowed on school grounds, Yuki says. Worry not, Ayame says, leaning in and delicately clutching Yuki's chin while the rest of the class is cast in the shadow of Ayame's glowing affection. I can easily slip through and infiltrate any barrier that stands between our love. You'll get arrested, Yuki says. We got permission, Mine clarifies, holding up a paper that says, it's okay, written on it. Which is still one of my favorite props in the whole series. Mine turns and greets Tohru. One of the other girls asks if they know each other, and Mine turns and sets her gleaming eyes on them. Try on clothes. Do you like to try on clothes? Do you like to try on clothes? And Toru's like, Mine-san, get a hold of yourself. Hanajima says that she'll hope they'll make her Cinderella dress pure black, which Mine's definitely into. Reveal all to my measuring tape, Ayame shouts while we transition back to the present, where Tohru continues to struggle with evilness. Were you happy that Ayame was here in this?
I enjoyed seeing both of them again.
Yes.
I know I made this joke when we read the manga chapter, but they're just like, it's okay, I have a permit. This just says I can do what I want.
Yes. It's exactly like that. It just says, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's like, is that really a permission? Like, I don't know. Then I won't go without dinner and I'll do my best, Toru shouts in her typical way of misconstruing things in her head and then having an outburst about them. Just relax for a second, the director girl says. She tears up the script. If the casting doesn't fit with our story, then I'll make the story fit with our cast. The kids ask if it's okay, and the director says it's fine. I mean, look at the class doing Mito Koman, she argues. Their version has the two main dudes as women and has them wreaking havoc on bad guys. The Japanese Charlie's Angels, Uo shouts in admiration, and Hana is like, full throttle in the background. Does this joke even land with people? Like, I feel like Charlie's Angels was super popular in the early 2000s, and like...
It means that it's apparently a reference that is understandable in Japan, though.
I guess. Or it just wasn't changed to something else, but I guess there's like a trio in the story, right? So it seems...
Yeah. I see the fact that like they're definitely saying Charlie's Angels in the Japanese version.
And full throttle. Yeah. Yes. One of the boys in the class wonders if they'll be in the bath scenes, and Yuki is like, I don't think their teacher is going to allow that. Uo whines that their play sounds way more fun. All right, let's rewrite this thing, director shouts with fire in her eyes, and Toru's just that they're rewriting the script anyway. Maybe they should adjust Yuki, the princess character, a bit too, so it's easier for Kyo to play. Then he might actually join them for rehearsals. Tohru looks down. Yuki takes notice of her looking upset about him. One of the class 2D friends, comments that Kyo ran off somewhere again. And I want to see him act too, Uo says, and in unison the two friends and Uo are like, to laugh my butt off. That might be the reason that he ran off, Yuki says. And he volunteers to go look for Kyo on his way to student council meeting. Out in the hall, Kyo sits on the stairs. He remembers Yuki picking up the hat and thinking as a small child, gross, I don't want it anymore if he touched it. He remembers Tohru's mother holding that hat. Why are you sulking like a little kid? Yuki asks, having found him in the hall. He tells Kyo to go back to rehearsal. Everyone's waiting for him. I'm not sulking and I'm not going to do this play, Kyo says. Seeing you there will piss me off. Then complain to me directly, Yuki says. You like making them, including Honda-san, worry about that attitude of yours? Don't say a damn word about her, Kyo shouts, interrupting him. Making a fool of me even though you know nothing. You have a dad and a mom. You're praised and needed by others. Someone like you who can surpass me easily while I desperately struggle can never understand what it feels like to be me. You're a prince who's always had everything you ever needed. You'll never understand what it feels like to be the idiot that never gets anything and wants an idiotically impossible thing. Yuki simply turns and looks at him. Kyo remembers a woman saying, don't you want it to be that way? You wouldn't want not having anyone to hate, right? Kyo punches a nearby window. Go to hell, he says, and walks off, his hand bleeding. A girl and Machi spot Yuki. The other girl comes to talk to Yuki while Machi stands back. It's sort of abrupt now that I'm saying it out loud, but yeah, they just come around. Kyo leaves and they come around the corner. They talk about the cultural festival. The girl knows that Yuki's class is performing Cinderella, but I'm not very happy that you're not the prince, she says, because you're the most prince-like person I can think of, Soma-senpai. Don't you think, Kuragi-san? The girl says. No, I don't, Machi says, not looking up. The president is nothing like the prince. Machi walks away. The other girl starts to complain to Yuki that Machi's always like that. She looks down on people in their class and stands out in their class. Maybe she thinks she'll get attention that way. That doesn't seem very nice, huh? The girl says, but Yuki's clearly still taken aback at what Machi said. Kyo finds Tohru sitting in the classroom alone. She's been waiting for him. She wanted to show him the rewritten script. I'm sure you'll find it easier to play your role this time, she says excitedly. She also rewrote my character to make it easier for me to play. Oh, but it was because of my terrible acting. Kyo wonders what Tohru was thinking about all alone, while waiting all alone, and remembers Yuki sassing him about not making Tohru worry earlier. Tohru notices his bleeding hand and starts to comment on it. Kyo rests his hand on the desk beside her, looks her in the eyes, then rests his head on her shoulder. Fine, I guess I'll do it, he says. He takes the script from her. You better not laugh at me. Kyo turns and walks out and says, all right, let's head home. But Tohru, he's left, blushing deeply. She rubs her eyes. Okay, she stammers, and they leave together. And we cut to the end credits.
Aww.
Oh, there's so many good moments in this episode. I remember the first time we were reading this through in the manga, and there was the scene where Machi's like, oh, Yuki's nothing like a prince, and then just like bounces. In my head, that's when he's hearing like, imagine me and you, I do. I think about you day and night in his head. I don't think I made that joke. I hope not. Before. But yeah, I don't know. He's like completely awestruck at the way that she says that and just like leaves. And it's hard to describe it, but it's clearly very positive when you see his face after she says that and walks away. It's not like he's like, what? Because he doesn't think of himself that way.
Yeah, we've had him like throughout the series, but more recently especially, we've had him a couple times being like, oh no, I'm not like a prince.
Pretty much every time they tell him he's like a prince, he denies it. I think even the very first part of the story, we're like, oh, Yuki, you're such a prince, you're so princely, and he's like, oh, no. Like, he just like, it seems like polite denial, but I think like in reality, he doesn't actually think that way about himself.
Yeah. As
we have come to see later. That's all the second half of the story, or for the episode. We should talk about the first half, because there's so many two different, like, the reason we read this as like the 3 chapters and then 1 is because the first half of this episode / the last part of that like sort of 3-chapter arc is all about Kakeru and Yuki. So I don't know. I really appreciate these episodes where we get to see Kakeru animated because his dynamic with Yuki is so great, I think. I like how he just accepts what Yuki says and like thinks, and he's like trying really hard to see from his perspective. Like he asks all these questions like, oh, you see Tohru like a mother even though we're the same age and all this other stuff, but like it's not like he's teasing him or anything.
Yeah, he's like genuinely trying to like understand what he's telling him.
Yeah, exactly. And
he's also like trying to be supportive even though he doesn't fully understand it, because like the bit where he's like, are you sure it's not just because like you feel like you can't beat the other guy? And
yeah, exactly. He's like, are you sure? Yeah, you sure you're not just giving up on her? Because he's like, that Kyo guy's pretty hot. I mean,
yeah.
But Yuki explains like, well, that he does feel a bit insecure about Kyo. Like there's things that he wishes he was more like in terms of like the way that Kyo is, but he just doesn't see her that way. And they communicate with the soccer ball. Like true gentlemen, obviously.
Yeah, like how they had them like kicking it back and forth and shouting at each other.
Yes. I mean, that also happened in the manga, which is great, but it's
like they only had him like just do the like couple of like throwing it at each other things in the manga, but they added in that bit of them just like kicking it back and forth multiple times.
I forgot that Yuki cried. I don't remember. I mean, he definitely stands and he's like holding his arm like kind of up to his face in the manga, but I don't remember if it struck me that he was crying in that scene too. I mean, I guess Kakeru said like don't cry, which makes it more obvious, but
yeah, I have it right here, and yeah, he's definitely crying.
Yes. How could I forget? I mean, it's so touching. I do always like this scene that comes off of the heels of all these like awful things about Yuki's backstory, where it's like, you know, he had this awful, isolated and childhood where he was suffering a lot of abuse, and then the time with Tohru, of course, that gave him some hope for the future, but then sort of faded over time. And now that they're like kind of together again, have been together for a while, in sense that they live together and stuff, she came back into his life. And now he has this new person and like new people who he can connect with, and it's so, I think, important for his character growth and important for him.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I also always enjoy that Kimi comes and punches Kakeru in the gut. That's also very important and emotionally touching. I mean,
yeah.
I love how she's like, "What are you doing to Yun's face?" or whatever.
I do like the bit like she comes in and like you know interrupts the thing, but then like yes, the bit where he's like, "Yeah, I am feeling better," and Kakeru's like, "Oh well, that's good," and like as he like sits back up again, and then he has this like. It's just like, maybe it's because I was able to talk to someone about all this and they're very nice and all that. So
yeah, that's true.
It's a nice scene.
It is good. It's nice that Kimi, I mean, like, we joke about Kimi being Kimi, but but it's nice that she comes and checks on him too, and on top of, Kakeru being nice and listening to him and trying to see things from his perspective. Which is also good growth for Kakeru. These are very Yuki-focused episodes, but we've seen that Kakeru said in the past that he wants to learn how to see things from other people's perspective, so...
Yeah, you can see
he did a good job.
Yeah, he's actively putting in the effort to try and do that now.
Be Yuki's friend. Be Yuki's friend.
With soccer.
That's the ultimate kind of friendship. We talked about that last episode.
Yeah, so we talked about it a bit in the spoiler section, but it's kind of cute that like Yuki's first friends when he was little tiny like invited him to play soccer, and he's kind of playing soccer here with Kakeru.
Yes. Quote unquote playing soccer.
Yeah.
They're playing with a soccer ball. They're definitely using a soccer ball. Whether it's play or not is questionable, I guess. And then we have the hilarious, Kyo doesn't want anybody to know about the play, but then of course Shigure finds out about the play, which is always hilarious. That scene is always hilarious to me.
Yeah. So I never really connected until watching it that like Tohru was having a breakdown over her lines like while cooking dinner.
Yeah. In the middle of cooking
she's just
dinner,
like
on the kitchen floor.
Like kneeling on the kitchen floor, and Shigure's just like crouched next to her like, "What you doing?"
Yeah. You okay, buddy?
Yeah.
I imagine that what she's doing is like she like came home from school and was like didn't have time because she like works and shit, and then today she was like cooking dinner. She's like, I'll work on my lines while I cook dinner or whatever, because everybody is successful when they're doing two things at the same time.
Yes.
Especially when one of them is cooking, as we've seen in this series. But yeah, she's like in the middle of cooking dinner, like, looking at her lines and talking to Shigure about it, I guess. Yeah. It's really funny. And then I do enjoy the scene where Kyo's like playing keep away with her skirt, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
I also was really excited. One of my favorite Tohru scenes of Tohru being a little bit we talk about how people often perceive Tohru as being kind of a pushover, but she does these things where she obviously isn't. Like, for example, completely willfully ignoring like Kyo's desire to like not want Shisho to know about him.
Yeah.
Like, where he's like, don't tell Shisho, and she looks away and she's like, okay. And then
and he's like, look me in the eyes and say it.
Yes. I was really happy with the way that was animated, because in the manga it was really funny. So it was basically exactly the way I expected, which was nice.
Yeah, it's really cute because like he starts off like kind of genuinely like annoyed or whatever, but then obviously starts like being like amused as this happens, and then at the end he just kind of smiles at her and is like, "You're the one being bullied."
Yeah. She's like, "I'll show you how mean I am," and he's like, "I'm being mean to you."
Yeah. That's like the translation choice of him just saying confiscated when he grabbed the script.
Yeah, that was really funny. I don't know what's up with that. I didn't check it. It was really funny though.
Yeah.
But then it also transitions into this scene of Yuki comes home and sasses him, which is also great and hilarious. Tohru is like, it doesn't really faze her, but then Kyo is super embarrassed about it, which is wonderful. But then he brings up the hat, of course, because as we've seen, it was Kyo's hat, and then it ended up in Yuki's hands, and then ended up with Tohru. And it seems like that stirred up something dark within Kyo too, because he goes upstairs, and while they're having this like nice casual dinner, and Toru's like serving them and stuff, and then there's this like cutaway in the middle of Yuki's thing where Kyo is upstairs in his room being super upset about something and just like looking at his hands in the dark. Like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this scene doing in here? Like, I thought we just resolved some Yuki drama, now we have Kyo drama. Like, I do like the way that it was kind of cut in the middle of something sort of like pleasant. This episode I thought was really interesting. One thing about this episode in the adaptation specifically that I thought was interesting is the type of music that they use. So sometimes that we comment, like sometimes I comment on this and sometimes I don't, but there's a lot of like so like at the very beginning, there's when Yuki's thinking about Tohru and how they kind of like met at the beginning of the series, they're using this like piano music that's it's kind of cute, but it has this sort of like dark undertone. And same with like when Yuki takes her hand and kind of like leads her to the table. It's one of the songs they used before in the series, like one of the instrumental songs they used in the series, but it also kind of sort of this light atmospheric type song, but it also has this kind of a little bit of a dark undertone too. Like there's still something sort of beneath the surface. And I just thought it were interesting choices in this episode where it's supposed to be, I think it's supposed to be kind of, hopeful about moving forward in the future, as if there are still things that are looming over Yuki and Kyo, especially Kyo, I guess. And maybe Tohru, I guess, if you read how they're kind of like overlaid on the scenes. But I just thought it was interesting. You would think that this episode they would do use some of the music they used in the beach arc that was a little bit more just straight up like I don't know, the word I keep returning to is like hopeful or just kind of like upbeat or something like that, but they were deliberately a bit dark still in some of the music choices, which I thought was interesting.
They had some funky club music when Ayame was on screen.
Well, they have to. He brings the party with him wherever he goes. Did they have the one that was like the do 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 do, or was it a different song?
It was similar, I think. Yeah, I know you should take that much notice of it, but it was another one where I was like, what's this music?
I was just really, really focused on what he was saying. So I didn't notice it. That's funny. I love Ayame so much. But so in the manga, Kyo was there in that scene. So like at the school when they're talking about Ayame comes to take everybody's measurements, which he also demands that they reveal their secrets and their measurements, which is great. But like Kyo was also there, and Ayame teases him about not being super princely and whatever, and Kyo wasn't even there in that one scene. So I thought it was interesting how they chose to like have Kyo. Kyo is like very absent in the episode, even more so than he was in the manga. So
yeah,
instead of kind of like trying to make a quick escape, like he was there and trying to escape, he just wasn't there at all for that class meeting. And then later he's not there at the rehearsal at all either, which he also wasn't in the manga. But yeah, I thought that was a very minor but interesting choice. Oh, another change that I noticed from the that was like directly from the manga, I guess, is that so Yuki has this memory of Tohru at the beach covering Kisa, Hiro, and Momiji with a blanket. And they have that scene, and then it's kind of like he imagines like himself being tucked in by her too. Yeah. And of course, like him, and it looks like him as like a child. So.
Yeah, we've talked about that scene a lot when we're talking about like evidence of
his feels.
Yuki's particular feelings for Tohru. And they had in the manga they had like a scene of him as a child, like being tucked in when he was just like talking about like being cared for as a child or whatever. But I liked the choice of kind of combining it with that scene with the kids.
Yeah, I like that too. And maybe it was intended to be that, but
yeah, it just kind of had it was kind of separate from that scene. Like they weren't like that close to each other in the manga. They just had a scene of him like as a child being with a hand touching his head that you couldn't tell if it was meant to be Tohru or just some generic like hope for a mother figure kind of thing.
Yeah. So I liked that too.
Yeah.
But enough about Yuki. We should talk about all the other kids. I mean, I always loved the part where they're trying to do this play Cinderella, but clearly there's a miscasting of Tohru as the evil stepsister, which is hilarious in and of itself. But the girl who seems to be like running, she doesn't get a name or anything, but there was also the same girl in the manga who is like, fine, I'll rewrite the script. Like she rewrites everything about it or whatever. She rewrites the script to fit everybody's roles better. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But
yeah.
I do love Tohru trying to be mean. She can't even be mean acting. While acting, she's like crying, being like, "You can't have any dinner."
Yeah. I love when she's like, "I'll go home without any dinner," and they're like, "Why would you not have dinner?"
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'll be the one who doesn't have dinner. It's like, what? Like how Hana is like, I'm happy that you're crying for me or whatever.
Yeah.
Still love how Uo is still obsessed with the other play. She's like, oh, it's so cool. I want to do that play. I don't want to do this stupid play. Why don't we do this one? And the friends, the boy friends, are also complaining about not getting to see Kyo act, which of course everybody wants to see.
Yeah. I love when they're talking about how they want to like see him and laugh, and Yuki's like, maybe this is why he never comes. Maybe.
Oh, Yuki's trying to stand up for Kyo. It's actually nice. Behind his back. He can't do it in front of his face, though.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Kyo would accept it. I like how Yuki's constantly being like, I don't think so. Like, they're like, are they going to have the bath scenes with the girls? And Yuki's like, yeah. I don't think so. He does that with the student council a lot, I feel like, too, with, like, Kakeru. This nonsense. It's like, let's have fireworks and sweet potatoes at the culture festival. And Yuki's like, no. Well, not just him. Everybody was like, no. But
yeah.
I think isn't the place where the Kyo and Yuki had their little discussion, and by discussion I mean argument, where Kyo punched the wall window, was like in a slightly different place. Like it was on the stairs. I don't think it really matters that much, but I just thought it was interesting. They put them there instead. Then you can have the girls just come out of nowhere around the corner, I guess.
Yeah. I
think he was outside.
I don't know. I guess they're like right inside, because like, where they start off outside and go inside or something. I don't know.
in their fight scene. Hold on.
Like he's like moping in an ambiguous place, and then like when you see Yuki, there's like some like trees and bushes in the background.
Yeah, that's
but, like,
why I thought it was outside.
Also kind of like an entryway, and then like you can kind of see like the doorway, but then like at the end when he punches the window, they're definitely inside. Like there's doors and windows and stuff.
Maybe it was a walk and talk. Oh, here we go.
Yes, I don't know if they were like just outside a door and then like walked inside and.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, he goes into the hallway. I think Yuki's standing in the exterior doorway, and Kyo was sitting like outside. There was a brief like cutaway to the roof. In the anime episode, like maybe he was sitting on the roof, since we know that that's his place where he goes to sulk often. At Shigure's house and at school, I think. Not that matters a lot, but it was interesting. I like the way they had the scene with Machi. It's very understated, and I enjoyed that about it. All of Machi's kind of like her hot takes on Yuki are very understated. So, well, I mean, I guess next time we'll finally get to see the play that we've been building up to for the last like 5 episodes. And we'll get to see Ayame's beautiful craftsmanship, which is very important, obviously.
Yes.
Like how he's like, how many costume changes will you have? And Yuki's like, it's not a wedding.
I always like the detail of Now and Kakeru are fixing the closet door that got broken.
Yes. They have to. It's unsafe, obviously. Now looks grumpy about it too. He's like, why are you talking on the phone? We have to fix the door, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any other things to talk about. I'm excited to see this play. For the record. I hope everybody else is too. And I'm sure that people who've read the series before are. All right. Thank you for listening. Next time, we'll talk about episode 23, which is called Something Like Cinderella.
Bye-bye.
Bye. How dare they call it Something Like Cinderella? I mean, how very dare. I saw that in the episode card, and I was like, I'm offended. No, I'm just kidding.
There's like so many different variations on the title.
In the Yen press, isn't it Cinderella-ish, which is also... I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not actually that offended. I think it's fine.
Yeah. I grew up on Sort of Cinderella, so it's always going to be Sort of Cinderella in my heart.
I think Sort of Cinderella has a good ring to it. Something Like Cinderella is a little too... it's not pedestrian enough, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like Cinderella-ish is like too casual. Sort of Cinderella is just casual enough. And then Something Like Cinderella. Huh?
Yeah. Wasn't there like something Cinderella-ish also?
Oh, I don't know.
Was one of the...
I don't have the other translation with me, but I mean, Something Cinderella-ish is fine. I wonder what it is in Japanese. I definitely didn't check. I guess I could. It's fine. It'll be great regardless. I hope there's yakiniku on stage, which is what matters most. I enjoy that. Of course, the kids are freaking out about Cinderella's dress being black, but Mine is super into it, which she definitely was in the manga. But I just, in this episode, she was very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most important spoiler of all is that this time. So I guess there's like maybe 2 more episodes left of this season, 24 and 25. Actually, I guess that makes sense because the you only need to have Sort of Cinderella, and then they have the DVD, and then they can have the God reveal when he gives it back to her, when Kureno gives it back to her. So
I figure they'll end on either.
I mean, sorry, not the God reveal. Akito's gender reveal.
Yeah, I figure they'll end on either Kureno's curse being broken or the full.
That's true.
Reveal. I don't know which one. But yeah, I think either one would serve as a good kind of cliffhanger-y conclusion. So
I guess we'll just have to see. We have 2 more weeks to find out, I guess.
Maybe they'll end 24 on the Kureno reveal and then have 25 be flashbacky stuff.
Maybe
to the Akita reveal.
The Sort of Cinderella stuff will only take like half the episode, probably.
Yeah, there'll probably be some like little setup, and then the play, and then the kids afterward, and the setup of the DVD for Kureno, and then the next one will be
with Hana being like, oh, I couldn't have done it without your son, to like Cosmo.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. It's like it felt like we were like running out of episodes at first, but now it's like it feels almost like we have one more than we need.
Yeah, it was kind of like, there could be so much more. I guess we'll just have to see what happens. Well, so that's coming next time. Who's excited? Anyway, in terms of like other bigger, longer term question mark spoilers, there's like, of course, we still have Kyo's half of the hat story, and we get that scene where Kyoko, it's his, he's remembering all the stuff that Kyoko said to him, so his sort of like returning of that suppressed guilt that he had about being at Kyoko's accident and stuff like that. That's all still to come. Yeah. Next season in Fruits Basket, I guess.
And we had the little glimpse forward of Yuki and Tohru's final scene in the series with the
handshake.
Yeah, the handshake.
The famous handshake.
And he finally says her name.
Right. No big deal. It only took him 2 years. And they lived together for those 2 years, too, so it's not like they were just, like, randos.
I still love when Haru's like, are you just embarrassed because it's been so long you feel like you can't? And he's like, no. And Tohru's like, oh, it's obviously that.
I think he's just embarrassed about a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's not just because of the length of time. But, Haru is wise. That's how he feel. Just like a cow. Cows are wise, right?
Yeah, they kind of live the life, so.
Can you elaborate?
They just hang out in a field and get fed.
Yeah, I guess that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I want to be a free-range cow.
Dairy cows are generally pretty well taken care of because, you don't make milk if you're not happy and healthy.
Yeah, and I believe you have to make sure you hug them and talk to them every day so that your hearts increase.
Yes.
That's
so you can get the S rank.
Yeah,
milk.
You want gold milk. That's a Harvest Moon reference for anybody who isn't playing along. Not an Animal Crossing reference, which is what I almost said.
I mean, you could hug your cow villagers, probably.
I don't know if they would like that. They would just like frown, make that like heartbreaking, or
Yeah.
like the surprised emoji or surprised reaction. Yeah.
You're like, give me the milk.
It's like when you give a frog villager a frog, and they're like, "Ooh,"
Yeah.
and you're like,
I gave my octopus villager an octopus.
"How did that go?"
He made some reference to eating it later, so.
Oh dear. I think octopi would probably eat other octopi, though. That's probably legit.
But it is in his house, so he hasn't eaten it yet.
Okay. I did get a DIY for a doghouse recently, and I was like, I don't think that this is okay. Like, what if I had a dog villager? Is that okay? It's kind of weird how you can have like a cat tree in a game with cat where your neighbors are also cats. Like,
Yeah.
Look, I don't make the rules. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And there's like a realistic snowy owl that perches on your signboard,
Yeah, you can
but
have a
then you can go but then you can go inside the museum and talk to Blather.
Questions. I think I actually choose to think that Animal Crossing is like a post-apocalyptic world, just like Hatoful Boyfriend, where it's like you're in running around with all the animals, and they're all like whatever anthropomorphized from the radiation and stuff or whatever. The pigeon virus.
Yeah.
That's another video game reference.
Died out.
Yeah,
you're attending
you have to use your hunter-gatherer skills.
Yes. You're attending the prestigious whatever
Saint
academy.
Saint Pidgeot's Academy or whatever it was. I forget.
It's like
someone knows. Someone is screaming.
4 pigeons. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot so many things. I suppressed so much about Hatoful Boyfriend. I don't know why. Anyway, Fruits Basket. Speaking of animals, people like animals. The other, of course, the best parts for me of this episode, other than the resolution of years of trauma for Yuki, was that we have the shippy times between Kyo and Tohru, and also Yuki and Machi. So Kyo, of course, just leaning all over Tohru and then being like, "Let's go home," and then she's like super blushing, and he like doesn't notice? ? Anyway, or maybe he did, and he was just ignoring it. He's pretty good at that. Just willfully ignoring people's feelings. Positive feelings toward him.
Yeah.
And then Machi's like, no, Yuki's not like a prince anyway, bye. And then pieces out. And I think Yuki's like, wow, she like actually understands how I feel as opposed to all these other chumps.
Saint Pigeon Nations, by the way.
Oh, you just had to know. Saint Pigeon Nation, not Pigeon Nation. If you haven't played Hatoful Boyfriend, you really should, because first of all, it's a cheap game and it's hilarious, and it's all the best things about a dating sim, except there's pigeons.
And then it gets like real like dark.
Some parts of it are very dark. That's what makes it great. I don't know why. Like, is that meant to not be a compliment?
And you're like, oh, haha, I'm playing this silly
I've got to pick
game
my
about dating
boyfriend.
pigeons, and then it's like, oh, there's like a government conspiracy, and I'm dead now.
Yeah. Or it's just like, I returned to my cave and slept alone at night, and you're like, what? Isn't there like one of the cutscenes where it's like all rainy and sad? I forget, because you're all alone and you're the only non-bird around.
Yeah.
Yes, there's the long conspiracy one. And then there's the like carve it into your soul kid, the person, bird, not character.
Oh, yeah. And the like motorcycle gang. Girl gang bird.
I don't know. Yes. Well, I'm glad we had time for a diversion in this episode. To Hatoful Boyfriend. Any other spoilers you want to talk about? There's just Kyo's sadness and all the redemptive affection and relationships that are about to hit. Or about to hit more, I guess, really. Like, about to become much more prominent. I'm really excited to see Machi get animated. She hasn't had enough. It's just not her time in the story yet, but I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to see more of her in the anime. It's just not time yet. It won't happen until next season, I guess.
She's had some good moments.
Oh, she broke down the door.
Broke down the door.
Yeah, she smashed up a bunch of stuff. But none of the good, like, Yuki kind of like helping her, you know, with her issues type stuff hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And then
well,
like
Yuki's
fighting, they're not fighting.
Yeah. Well, Yuki's just finishing up with his issues.
Right.
So.
Yeah, he had to get to here with Kakeru to have his restorative justice. Yes.
Yes.
Kakeru to kick a soccer ball in his face and tell him not to cry.
Yes.
This is everyone take notes. This is how you become a good friend. How many times have I hit you in the face with a soccer ball? I mean,
at least 5.
Like, oh, my face is garbage now. I'm missing like 3 teeth, but we're better friends. For all the stuff that happened, I feel like this is one of those times where it was like kind of a big conclusion, so it's almost like there's not a lot to talk about. But we'll have things to discuss after Sword of Cinderella, I'm sure. Think of all the things. It's gonna be a good time. Am I gonna have to act it again? I'm gonna have to act it somehow.
Just like insert, just like copy and paste the entire
our audio drama from before.
Yes.
Be like, just skip ahead like 2 minutes if you don't want to hear it again. So nothing else to say. I've already asked you like 3 times and then we bantered away. Okay, good. Next time we'll talk about Sword of Cinderella or something like Cinderella or Cinderella-ish, whatever you like to call it, whatever your flavor of not
Cinderella-esque.
Yeah. I think Cinderella-esque works well too. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
really.
You, really. All right, see you next time.
Bye.
It's like listening to an episode that's like 90% laughter.